All right, so at the first stop of this multi-day trip, I'm charging at the Rivian charging network in Inyo, California. This is kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it's actually a really convenient location to charge at. So heading up to the Whitney Portal campground to meet up with a couple friends. We're gonna camp for a couple nights, and then Monday very early in the morning, we're gonna leave the campground and attempt to hike to the summit of Mount Whitney. So we've got a permit, we've got all our gear ready, and it's definitely gonna be super challenging, but should be an adventure. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously a little later in this video, I'll let you guys know how that hike went. And then on the way out, going to stop in Alabama Hills, drive around, take some pictures and video, hopefully get some cool stuff, and maybe even stop at another cool location on the way. So as I was driving, I saw this really cool formation off to the side of the highway, and I'd passed it a few times before on other trips, but today I decided I was gonna stop and check it out, and this area is called Fossil Falls. So this landscape was actually created by an active volcano from hundreds of thousands of years ago. There's a really short hike that you can take, and you end up in the middle of this field of lava rock. It's an awesome landscape, and there's even a little canyon that was carved by water flow from a long time ago. Such a cool location, and really glad I stopped to check it out. After that short hike, I got back to the truck and decided just to drive around a little bit and check out some of the dirt roads nearby. So if you ever find yourself on Highway 395 near Lone Pine and you're looking for a quick stop, somewhere unique that you can check out, I would definitely recommend Fossil Falls. After a short drive, I got into Lone Pine and started heading up into the mountains. It was just before sunset, and seeing the sun dip behind the mountains was really cool. It made for an awesome drive up to the campground. So we got to our campsite, and it definitely was not level, but that was a good thing because I got a chance to try out the auto leveling in camp mode. It definitely took a few minutes for the truck to level itself, but the feature worked really well, and once that was done, I was able to get the rooftop tent set up. Our campsite was right next to this flowing stream, and it was a really awesome spot to set up for the night.
Yeah, let's do that. Nice.
Waking up with the stream just outside the tent was really nice, and walking over, realized that there were trout in the stream as well, which was pretty cool. So our campsite was actually big enough that my buddy Jason could park his truck right next to mine, and you can see the view from our campsite was really awesome. We spent a little time watching the clouds roll over the mountains behind us, and then it was time to get some breakfast. All right, we just took a walk about a mile up the trail to the Whitney Portal store and got some breakfast. They have some massive pancakes that were really delicious. So we're just trying to carb up a little bit before this hike. We just got back to camp and we're gonna relax a little bit today, not really trying to do too much. We're gonna get an early start, so 3 a.m. in the morning tomorrow to start our hike. And yeah, really just trying to eat, drink a lot of water, and get ready for tomorrow right now. So in the afternoon, our other buddy Farshad arrived, and we spent some time organizing our gear and just making sure we had everything ready to go for when we started the hike. So our plan was to get up at 2 a.m. We had 2 other friends that were staying in Lone Pine, and they were gonna come pick us up from the campground in the morning, and we would all start at the trailhead around 3 a.m. So the entire hike up to the Mount Whitney summit and back down is 22 miles and 6,000 feet of elevation gain. So there are 2 different permits you can get for the Whitney hike. One is to actually camp overnight, and one is to do the hike in a single day. And our permit was just for a single day. So we had to get a very early start, and that's why we were getting going at 3 a.m. Now with this hike, there's definitely a lot of variables with weather and altitude as well. So we were all as prepared as we could be, but we knew there was a chance that not all of us would make it to the summit. We had a nice relaxing evening around the fire, and then we all did our best to get to bed as early as possible. Just before 3 o'clock, we were all up and we had just finished eating a quick breakfast, and we got a little surprise. So this big black bear had made its way into our camp. I think he had smelled the delicious oatmeal we were cooking up, and we had to chase him out. We were fully awake at this point and ready to start our hike. We got on the trail just after 3 a.m. and it was really amazing to see the sun rising as we were making our way up the mountain. All right, first rays of sunlight. Can use this warmth for sure. Nice and breezy up here. So around the 12,000 foot mark, Jason and I were really feeling the altitude and had to make the tough decision to start making our way back down while the rest of the group continued on. Two of the people in my group were able to make it all the way to the summit, which was really awesome. The views on this hike were truly spectacular. It's definitely something that you want to come into prepared though, and I will for sure be trying to make it back here next year to hike to the summit. That night we were all really wiped out, but we still managed to make a fire at camp and just relax and recap the amazing day that we had had. And luckily we didn't have any more visits from our bear friend that night. So after 3 awesome nights of camping and hiking, it was time to pack up and head out. So at the base of the mountain here is Alabama Hills, which is another really cool spot and such a contrast in terrain to the Whitney area, just 30 minutes up the mountain from here. So I'm driving around just exploring this area and taking some photos. This area used to be open to camping pretty much anywhere, Unfortunately, I think people were coming in here and leaving lots of trash and just not respecting the terrain, so they've closed a lot of the areas for camping. You can still drive around and check things out during the day, but there really aren't nearly as many campsites and places to set up camp as there were before. So kind of unfortunate to see that, but hopefully at some point they'll open it back up, and yeah, just hopeful that people will be more respectful of the space. It's a beautiful place and really cool to explore. So I'm going to drive around a little more here, get some lunch, and we will see what adventure comes next. Alabama Hills has a ton of dirt roads and little trails to explore, so I just spent the afternoon driving around and checking out spots for potential future campsites. As I made my way up this little offshoot trail, I came across a really cool view of the whole Alabama Hills area and also an epic view of Mount Whitney. It was really cool to see that from a totally different perspective than the day before. One thing that was really nice was I had plenty of range in the truck. After having camped for a few days and driven around here, I really didn't have any range anxiety at all. I knew where my next charging stop was going to be, and I was just free to explore as long as I wanted. At the end of this video, I'll get into how I plan my route and also where I stop to charge, so you'll know all the details of this trip. So after exploring around Alabama Hills for a few hours, I had to get on the road. I had one more destination that I wanted to check out before I headed home. As I was driving, I realized I was a little closer to sunset than I wanted to be, so I quickly aired down my tires and made my way along the very long dirt road to get to Trona Pinnacles. I arrived just as the last rays of sun were lighting up the pinnacles, and it was a really cool view. This is such an awesome location. It's in the middle of nowhere and it looks like you're on another planet. This is a location I will definitely be coming back to camp at. Not only are the formations really amazing to look at, but the stars at night here are incredible. After staying here way later than I had planned, it was time to end this adventure and head back home. As I've done in my other videos, I just wanted to take you quickly through the route I took for this trip and where I stopped to charge. So on the first leg of the trip, I left Irvine and stopped at an Electrify America station near Victorville. Now, I didn't stop here specifically to charge. I actually needed to get an SD card for my camera, but I decided to plug in and charge a little bit while I was there. And then I continued on to the Rivian charging station in Inyokern. At the Rivian charging station, I charged all the way up to almost 100%, and it was totally free. I only saw one other Rivian there, so I didn't have to wait for a charger or anything like that. It was really convenient. So I took that unexpected but really cool stop at Fossil Falls on the way and drove around a little bit more than I was planning. So there was an Electrify America station just past that. I stopped there and topped off my charge. This ended up being an unnecessary stop. I had plenty of charge by the time I got back out of camping in Alabama Hills, but it's a learning experience and I'm still figuring out how much range the truck actually uses under different driving conditions. On the way back, I left Whitney Portal campground, obviously did a bunch of exploring and driving around in Alabama Hills, and then from there I headed back to the Rivian charging station in Inyokern. From there, I made the short drive to Trona Pinnacles and then headed home. Here are the final stats for the trip. Now, after Trona Pinnacles, I actually didn't air my tires all the way back up, which was really just lazy on my part, to be honest. And I think this affected the efficiency a little bit. So I got to be better about that on future trips. If you enjoyed this video, there's a lot more adventures to come on this channel. In the meantime, subscribe and check out some of my other recent trips in the Rivian. Thanks for watching, everyone.